Hello everyone and welcome to the 740 Zone. I'm your host Jacob Murray, and our Week 2 coverage included 5 state-ranked teams from around the 740, and we started out in Warren where the Warren Warriors took on the Fort Frye Cadets, and we have reporter Jacob Mata out there to showcase the action that unfolded.
Warren and Fort Frye were both looking to go 2-0 coming into their matchup, and right out of the gate, it seemed as if Fort Frye was going to run away with this game. Early in the first quarter, the Cadet offense marched down the field, and quarterback Ian Ellis capped off the drive by punching the ball in from the 1-yard line, making the score 7-0 Cadets. They were not done there, as later in the first quarter, Owen Brown took the handoff from Ellis and went all the way to the end zone from 41 yards out, making the score 15-0 Cadets after a 2-point conversion. The Warren offense quickly responded with a 69-yard touchdown pass from senior quarterback Kurt Taylor to Evan Gandy, making the score 15-6. Then Taylor found Joel Chevalier in the final seconds of the opening quarter for a 29-yard touchdown pass, making the score 15-13 in favor of the Cadets. In the second quarter, Taylor found his senior teammate Gandhi again, this time for a 32-yard touchdown pass. The extra point was made, making the score 20-15 Warren. Fort Frye would answer back in the form of Owen Brown when he punched in a 2-yard touchdown run, but the extra point failed, so we went into halftime with a score of 21-20, Fort Frye up by 1. The third quarter was scoreless as it was a defensive battle. Fort Frye was up 7 in the final quarter of this ball game, and here's what their head coach had to say about their defense going into the fourth quarter. What do you need out of them?
Well, actually, we started keeping it a little bit simple. We were trying to do too much in the first half to confuse them, and I think we confused ourselves. So we tried to fix in the second half and just let our guys play, and they were able to step up and make plays since they didn't have to think quite so much and just able to play our defense.
Early in the fourth quarter, Mason Long took matters into his own hands and took the handoff from Ellis and rushed in for a 12-yard touchdown. The extra point failed. However, Coach spoke words into existence, and his defense made key stops, and the Cadets were able to secure the win 27-20. The Cadets would celebrate the win, however, they knew they had to get better in the future.
Obviously there's some things we need to clean up with coverages and things like that, but we just want to keep getting better. We got another big game next week, and we just need to keep getting better each week.
Reporting for 740 Zone, I'm Jacob Mata.
Next week, Fort Frye will put their unbeaten record on the line when they visit Caldwell, while Warren will travel to Logan to play the Chieftains. Now, we go out to a different game. The Athens Bulldogs play host to the Vinton County Vikings, and they haven't beaten the Bulldogs in over 12 years. Reporter Claire Geary saw a very interesting game from start to finish and a very close ending. Put a very good bow on the top of this TVC Ohio matchup.
You're exactly right. It was the ending, but the build-up towards the ending is what really made it special. Nice passes such as this one to Peyton Gale from Joey Moore would be called back on flags, which ultimately led to a lack of momentum for the Bulldogs to build on. Things like encroachment, blocks in the back, and more made things slow and hard for the team to work with. It wasn't until the very end of the first half where the Vikings got up on the board with a 10-yard pass from Braylon Dameron to Kobe Waugh, leaving them with 6 to their name after a failed 2-point conversion. But wait, get this. In the next 30 seconds, Gale has a monster catch and a 43-yard touchdown from Moore to end the half at 6 apiece, making it a tied ball game going into the third quarter, which definitely made things heat up.
So I saw in the first half, it was really the passing game that was really prevalent on both sides, but the run game really took over in that second half.
You're right. The run game was exactly what Vinton County needed to explode. Let's break this thing down. The fourth quarter became explosive on the ground for Vinton County, and it showed in the numbers. The Vikings had 340 rushing yards for the night versus Athens 58, and were much more successful with it.
But what players stood out above them all?
Vinton County has a handful of players that got their hands on the ball, such as Brock Moore, who had 2 touchdowns and 110 yards, and Zane Kerr, who had a touchdown to his name plus 7 yards in rushing. Saying that, it's the long yardage for the Vikings that made things work in their favor while Athens played catch-up on the scoreboard. Vinton County had an energy unmatched from the Bulldogs, and it showed in their final efforts of the game. The win broke a 12-game losing streak against Athens, and it was the first time the Vikings had won against them since joining the TVC Ohio. Dameron mentions the excitement when the game was down to the wire.
Well, at first I had butterflies, I'll tell you that, but I knew our team could pull it out. I knew we were tough enough to get us in the trenches and score touchdowns. We're just a good team.
The Butterflies certainly seem to help the Vikings, as for the first time in the 12-year history they have played in the conference, they have taken down the Athens Bulldogs. Thanks for the good work, Claire. Now, reporter Nick Henthorne and I headed over to C.H. Jones Field in Wellston, Ohio, to watch the Golden Rockets take on the Nelsonville York Buckeyes. And Nick was out there to shoot the game for us, and this was really a tale of two defenses. But what did you see from the camera lens?
Yeah, Jacob, it was great to see some TVC Ohio action. Like you said, this game was a showcase of defenses. Not a lot of offense early on. The only big play to mention, a deep pass to Wellston's Chase Ingalls that I completely missed with the camera. But while my camera work left a lot to be desired, this game gave us all we could handle.
Well, that's too bad, but you're right about the defenses showing out. What do you think these teams were doing to have so much success on the defensive side?
It came down to discipline in the trenches. Nelsonville York really slowed down Wellston's run game after a few big runs early on in this one by Jonathan Garvin. They played their gaps and contained the outside, and by the half they'd only given up 6 points after what appeared to be a broken play resulted in a Jeremiah Frisbee touchdown run.
Yeah, Wellston also made some big defensive plays. They were flying around to the football, and it was only 6-3 at halftime. What did the rest of this game have in store?
Like I said, NY's defense was disciplined, but Wellston's defense won them this game. They forced 5 turnovers, 1 fumble recovery, and 4 interceptions. R.J. Kemp came down with 2 picks, and both Chase Ingalls and Jared Wilbur each had a pick 6 in the fourth quarter. The offenses did have their moments in the second half. Frisbee finished with 1 touchdown on the ground and 1 in the air, courtesy of Hunter Smith. And the Buckeyes quarterback, Drew Carter, did get a goal line touchdown, but the defenses are shining through for me. And although Wellston took this one 24-12, neither team should be upset about their performance on D.
Yeah, and after this game, Wellston moves to 2-0, while the Buckeyes will fall to 0-2 in this one. And look, we both talked to Coach Mike Smith after the game about this, and he was raving about how his defense played here in this one.
Yeah, I think our D linemen do a good job. They don't get much credit because 90% of the time their job is to keep the tackles off of our linebackers, keep the center off our linebackers. So, you know, when they make plays, it's just a plus for us. And they made some plays tonight, and you know that's a group that don't get talked about much. And everybody knows that our linebackers are pretty good, and our secondary's gotten a whole lot better.
And that Wellston defense will look to continue to carry this team as they go into TVC Ohio play throughout the rest of the year. Thanks for the good work, Nick. Now we head over to Reedsville, where the Trimble Tomcats took on the Eastern Eagles, and we have reporter Sam Wiesent out at that game. And look, Trimble has won a lot of games against this Eastern Eagles squad over the last several years, but do you think that was going to be the case coming into this one?
Well, honestly, Jacob, going into this game, it was a complete toss-up. Like you said, the Tomcats have dominated the Eagles in years past, but there are a lot of unknowns. Trimble had a very young team going into this game, while Eastern had a lot of big names return. So it was really anybody's game.
Second play of the game, a 33-yard bomb from Connor Ridenauer to Bruce Hawley sets the Eagles up to score first. It's 7-0 Eagles. In the second quarter, Tabor Lackey looks to answer back. He's ready to pass, and we don't even know where to look. He sends a stealthy pass to Todd Fouts to tie the game 7-7. Neither team could gain momentum in the second half, but Trimble kicks a field goal to win the game 10-7.
Yeah, it was a close one out there in Reedsville, and you know, on paper it might have seemed like it would have been a one-sided affair, but how did these teams compare as you looked at them throughout the game?
Well, it was a tale of 2 quarterbacks. Eastern's Connor Ridenauer finished the night with 165 passing yards, while Tomcat Tabor Lackey totaled 94. With that exception, their stats are very similar. Their completion percentages are nearly identical. Lackey completed 60% of his passes, while Ridenauer completed 59%. Lackey threw 2 interceptions and Ridenauer threw 3. I will note that Trimble had the only passing touchdown of the night.
And that was Trimble's only touchdown of the night. That's not something we're used to seeing from them.
No, not at all. Over the last 10 seasons, the Tomcats averaged about 46 points per game against Eagles. And this week was the first time Eastern was able to put points up against Trimble since 2015.
And you know, I was literally at a game where defenses were stepping out throughout the entire one, and it really seems like the defenses did the same thing here in this one.
Yeah, both of these teams have relied on their ground game in years past, but this week, when either team tried, they stayed pretty stagnant, so they were forced to pass and made mistakes. Trimble only averaged 2.4 rushing yards per play, and Eastern averaged 3.7. Needless to say, Trimble head coach Phil Ferris was happy with how his defense performed.
You know, our defense did step it up the whole game, really. You know, it seemed like they were moving it, but, you know, to hold a team like Eastern to 7 points, that's pretty good. We've just got to get a rhythm. We got plenty of offense, got plenty of skilled kids. We just got to get it into a rhythm and find something that we do well.
The Tomcats will look to find a rhythm next week when they take on Belpre, and the Eastern Eagles will look to bounce back when they take on South Gallia. Thanks for the good work, Sam. Now we head over to the OVC, where we have the Ironton Tigers, who already took out the third-place team in the conference a year ago. They now took on the second-place team from last year and the Gallia Academy Blue Devils. And we have reporter Ryan Kincaid to recap all the action from Friday night.
The Reed Carrico Show was in full force at Tiger Alley as the Ironton Fighting Tigers set out to steamroll their closest OVC rival, Gallia Academy. After a 21-0 first quarter, the Blue Devils got their first and only points via a pass into the hands of Briar Williams. From there, Ironton's clinical offense, led by Carrico on the ground and Kyle Howell in the air, shut down a talented Gallia defense.
We work every day harder and harder, and we scout their defense and their offense a lot. We watch a lot of film, and we know exactly what they're going to do every play. And I think that's just what makes us really good.
2 weeks in, and the Fighting Tigers have already knocked off their two biggest OVC rivals, but they're not done just yet. They've got a date with Canton in mind.
I think we need to improve on our focus during the game and not making stupid penalties.
With arguably their two toughest regular season games finished with blowout victories, the Fighting Tigers have one word on their mind for the rest of the competition: kill. Ironton hosts the Hornets of Coalgrove next week, and Gallia Academy returns to Gallipolis to battle Rock Hill.
Now, the Ironton Tigers have already taken on their two biggest challenges to start the season, so expect this team to roll at 6-0 heading into the playoffs. Thanks for the good work, Ryan. Now we head over to the MVL, where we saw John Glenn take on Sheridan. And this was a defensive slugfest throughout, though Sheridan pulled ahead in the second half to take this one. Reporter Alex Porter was out there to catch up on all the action.
Week 1 in the MVL as John Glenn looks to bounce back from a tough Week 1 loss, and Sheridan looks to continue the offensive firepower against New Lex. Slow offensive start for both teams, but a miscommunication by John Glenn allows senior cornerback Nate Johnson to recover the ball, allowing Josh Orion and company to get the first drive of the game for the Generals. Josh Orion would have a solid gain on his legs, picking up a few that would set up an easy Jason Munyon punch-in for a 1 yard, as that would give the Generals the 6-0 lead. Later on in the second quarter, Orion would make it look oh so easy as he would find his receiver Chance Boring for the extension into the end zone, giving the Generals the 13-0 lead heading into halftime, and from there it would be all defense. The Red Rage have only allowed 18 points through the first 2 weeks. Head coach Paul Culver had high praise for his defense after yet another strong performance.
Well, with 8 returning starters, we knew that it was going to be like our, the thing we were going to hang our hat on, and having Shea Taylor back, obviously, the NBL linebacker of the year, we should hang our hat on our defense.
As Culver said, Taylor is the leader on the defensive side of the ball. He completed the night with a total of 9 tackles, including 1 sack. Jared Elson also added in 10 tackles for the General defense. Taylor also was able to catch a few passes from Josh Orion, but don't forget about the leader and core of this offensive strike, Jason Munyon.
He's an absolute hammer. 5 pretty darn good offensive linemen, senior tight end, and we put in a senior blocking back there on that last drive, and the joke is you take the air out of the ball.
Munyon would finish the game with 17 carries for 128 yards and 1 touchdown, leading the Generals to a 20-0 win over the John Glenn Little Muskies. Reporting for the 740 Zone, I'm Alex Porter.
The Generals start out the season 2-0, while John Glenn falls to 0-2. And be sure to catch up here at the 740 Zone for all the updates as the season progresses. Thanks for the good work, Alex. Now, we move over to Licking Valley. They had a spot in the state final game last year, and this year they started out 1-0. And they faced Division 7 Lima Central Catholic, and reporter Brian Kerp is here to tell us how the Panthers fared in this one.
Yeah, Jacob, this is a battle between two teams that were top 10 in their respective divisions, and Thunderbirds are trying to hand Licking Valley its first regular season loss since 2018. And this one started off well for them. On their opening drive, Sean Thomas gets the pitch, bounces it off to the right side, and he is off to the races. He finally gets hauled down at the 1 yard line, the start of a huge night for him. That's up a touchdown to put the Thunderbirds up 7-0. Fast forward to the second quarter, it looks as if Licking Valley made the defensive stop on 4th down, but not so fast. Sean Thomas takes it in to make it a 21-0 ball game.
Yeah, after putting up 35 points last week, what did you see out of the Licking Valley offense in this one?
Well, not a big night at all for the offense, but in a second, a nice play as Nathan Davison lobs up a pass to Brian Hines to put the Panthers on the board, one of just 2 touchdowns on a night for Licking Valley. To wrap up the half, Sean Thomas muscles his way through and breaks the play to put Lima Central Catholic up 28-7 at the break. Thomas got it done on both ends. In the third quarter, Cameron Palmer looks to convert on 4th down, but there's Thomas again, and he's taking it the other way for a pick 6. His 3rd score of the night, huge win for the Thunderbirds as they lead with a 35-13 victory.
Now, Brian, what was the biggest key for Lima Central Catholic in this win?
Well, we just saw one of those turnovers, but the Thunderbirds forced 5 turnovers in the ballgame, and it wasn't like Palmer was making bad passes for Licking Valley. The Lima defense made some athletic plays and turned those turnovers into points. And when you're facing a tough opponent like Licking Valley, forcing turnovers and cashing them in is huge.
We were able to make a few plays and put some pressure on the quarterback, and when the ball was in the air, we were able to make some interceptions and make some big plays there and stop a couple drives. And our kids did a great job of attacking the football and making turnovers. And this season, with the lack of scrimmages and early season football, it's been sloppy for 2 weeks.
Both of these teams will be at the very top of the playoff race, and we will be back here in Newark to see Licking Valley take on Granville. Thanks for the good work, Brian. And that'll do it for us here at the 740 Zone. Be sure to catch up on all the action from this past week of games and be on the lookout as we have some midweek content coming for you guys for week 3. I'm Jacob Murray from the 740 Zone, signing off.